My name is Diana Windsor, née Taylor, and I'm presently living in Libby Board's assisted living facility. Let's see, I'll try to describe my mother. She wasn't very tall. She got rather heavy in her middle age, but she had hazel eyes and light brown hair, and she was a strictly at-home mother. She didn't work outside of the home. She was born in the county of Warwickshire in England in 1905, and when she was a young mother, it wasn't the custom for women to go outside of the house to work, so she didn't. And I was born in 1927, and I have a sister who was born in 1935. There were just the two of us. And I grew up in England, obviously, and met an American airman, and we were married in 1945. My mother never gave any indication of whether she thought this was a good idea or not. So we went ahead, and I was just barely 18, and but we were never very close, and I wish now that I could talk to her and ask her questions, you know, and get closer to her, but I think that's pretty common. And she didn't show her affection. The most affection I can remember was I would get to sit on her lap for a few minutes before my afternoon nap. This is when I was just like 4 or 5, somewhere in there. But she showed her affection in other ways by making me pretty clothes and keeping my hair pretty and so forth. And then my sister came along in 1935, and there wasn't quite as much time to spend on me, so I think as I was a teenager and growing up, she thought I was pretty much of a scatterbrain and not too serious. And so after I married, I was just determined to be a good housewife and learn, well, I already knew how to sew. I taught myself to sew, and prove to her that I was a good housewife and so forth. And so our relationship changed a little bit, and after I was able to do things for her and take her shopping and so forth, you know, things like that. I used to feel that she spent way too much time dusting and fixing the house. Every day the house got dusted and the rugs were shaken and all that kind of thing. But, and then when she was still living in England, it was the custom to go shopping for foodstuffs every day because we didn't have refrigeration. And so then she would put on her coat and hat and go to the shops and get the foodstuffs for the day. And my sister and I, of course, were at school, and my dad would come home, or he'd get home about 6 o'clock, and we'd have our evening meal, which we called tea still, even though we had maybe sandwiches or something like that, along with the tea. And then after the evening meal, she liked to do embroidery. She would sit and do embroidery. And we would all go to bed about 9:30 or 10 o'clock. In 1948, I was already over here in the States living, and Mother and Dad decided to emigrate to the States with my sister. And so in 1948, that's what they did. And they settled in the small town of Missouri where my husband and I lived. And Dad found a job. They found an apartment first. And then after a while, my husband and my sister's husband by that time built them a small house. Built Mom and Dad a small house because my dad had had a severe heart attack and wasn't able to work anymore. He was quite a bit older than Mom. And so they lived in the house in the same town that I did. And I was able to spend quite a bit of time with them, and wish that I could spend more now. Well, one of the expressions that I wish she hadn't done, but if I asked a question about something and nobody seemed to know the answer, the response I got was, "Don't be silly. Just don't be silly." But one of the really good things that she did for me was to take me to the public library. And everybody in the family were big readers. And I got my library card when I was 4½. And so I had always done a lot of reading, and so did she. She liked to read novels. And my dad liked to read mysteries, and he always read the last 2 pages first so he'd know what was going on. She liked things to be attractive in the home. She liked to have flowers around and arrange things so that they looked attractive. And I picked that up from her too, I think. Yeah. Because that's always been an interest of mine. And I took it even further. I made my own drapes and slipcovers and so forth. Well, I became a mom rather soon. I came to the States in 1946, June of 46. And our son was born in March of 1947. And then 20 months later, his sister Karen came along. So I was very busy with 2 young children, and I had had no experience of taking care of little children. There just weren't any around in my family. But then 7 years passed, and my youngest daughter, Martha, came along, and she is the one on whom I rely on so much right now. She lives close by here, and she takes really good care of me, taking me to the doctor's office and so forth. And I'm to have a minor procedure done on Wednesday, and she will take me for that. And being a mom, let's see, I wish I had spent more time with the 2 youngest ones. I didn't take time to play with them. I really didn't know how to be a young mom. And where we lived was not close by anybody else who had children, so it was all done by guesswork. And but my youngest daughter, Martha, and I have always been close because, as I say, 7 years went by before she was born. And by that time, I was more mature and knew what I wanted out of life and so forth. So, being a mom, I wish I had been closer to my 2 oldest children. And we get along fine now. My son went to Vietnam as a helicopter pilot, and he came back. And right now he's flying a helicopter for the hospital services. You know, he ferries people from one hospital to another. My daughter, Karen, she's a curator of the local museum there in the small town where we lived. And Martha, my youngest one, she's always been a stay-at-home mom. She has 2 grown children. And right now, her husband's job takes him away from the home quite a bit. So she keeps the home going, so to speak. And he's usually home on the weekends, and they do something. And so my experience of being a mother, I just wish I could do it all again. I told Martha the other day, I wish I could have a do-over. The first one is, I think, when the baby is sleeping, you rest too. That's when I used to scurry around and do work, so I was always tired. But take time to spend with your children from the time they're babies on through till they get to kindergarten, for instance. That time never comes again. Those opportunities never come again. And we can teach them so much. Happy Mother's Day to all of you for 2012.